Now more than ever, Lowe's knows you don't just want a low price, you want the lowest price. And with our lowest price guarantee, you can count on us for competitive prices on all your home improvement projects. If you find a qualifying lower price somewhere else on the same item, we'll match it. Lowe's, we help, you save. Price match applies to same item, current price at qualifying retailers. Exclusions and terms apply. Learn how we'll match price at lowes.com/lowest price guarantee.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Knowing you could be saving money for the things you really want, like that dream house or ride, is a great feeling. That's why the State Farm Personal Price Plan can help you save when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling, just another way to save with the Personal Price Plan. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Introducing the new Volvo XC90 with 7-seat versatility, Google built-in, and advanced safety features for all your precious cargo. The new Volvo XC90, designed for life. Visit volvocars.com/US to learn more.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of F1 Fantasy Pole Position. It is Monday, June 30th. My name is Ewan. On today's episode, I'm going to get into my British Grand Prix team selection. We just had the Austrian Grand Prix yesterday. I did a race review. You can find that right up here somewhere in the corner. I'll put a sticker right there so you can click it and watch my race review. Had some great chit chats, about 40-ish minutes talking about all things Spielberg around the Red Bull Ring, Max, Kimi, Gabriel Bortoleto, Nico Hulkenberg, Ferrari, Mercedes. It was all covered there, so go check that out if you want the race review. But if you are liking what you are seeing in the F1 Fantasy Pole Position paddock, please drop a subscribe or like the video. Any of that is greatly appreciated as always. Comments, I always try to get back to that as well. But yes, double header in the middle of a double header right now. Austria yesterday, now Silverstone this week, which could be one of the best tracks on the calendar. So really, really looking forward to that. But instead of just preambling through all of it, let's just get right into it. All right, Silverstone circuit here, 18 corners, 52 laps, 2 DRS zones. Last 3 seasons, it's been 21st for overtakes, which is pretty surprising. So that's bottom 4 on the F1 fantasy calendar, 10 DNFs, 3.3 average. A lot of carnage coming about from the George Russell, Zhou Guan Yu kind of crash there, if you remember, right there at turn 1 in 2022. But the 2024 podium was Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, and Lando Norris. Quite an epic podium. I remember I was getting off a plane, and I was like, okay, I've managed to get off this whole thing spoiler free. I got on the train back from Frankfurt to Stuttgart, and I was like, okay, doing well. Haven't checked anything. I really want to watch the race, but the Wi-Fi on the train wasn't working. And then I sat up, the person in front of me, and I saw Lewis Hamilton holding a giant Union Jack flag, and I was like, I made it so far. Will he go back to back this year? I highly doubt it, but we will see. Crazier things have happened. Lando Norris looking in fine form right now. He was probably one of the faster drivers on track in Canada, just made a bad decision with that battle with Oscar Piastri, and yesterday managed the race almost to perfection. There were a couple of nervy moments there, but Norris is looking good, so maybe he will come into our thoughts. But yeah, Silverstone, fantastic track. The S is there, the low speed, the high speed. I'm so excited for Silverstone this weekend. It's going to be pretty epic, and hopefully you guys will get to watch as much as possible. Pirelli are bringing the C2, the C3, and the C4, which is a step softer than last year's C1, C2, C3. So that'll be interesting as they continue to kind of mix up the tire allocations for the 2025 season. And the weather. This is going to be kind of a big talking point here. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they're all going to be kind of cool, but it's actually getting cooler throughout the weekend. So Friday, it's 23 degrees Celsius, which is 73 degrees Fahrenheit, partly sunny. Saturday is 22 degrees C, 72 degrees Fahrenheit, cloudy with a 55% chance of rain. And Sunday, it's 20 degrees Celsius, 68 degrees Fahrenheit, cloudy, and a 56% chance of rain. That's what the big picture is on the screen right now. That is the AccuWeather forecast as of 7:30 a.m. On Monday, June 30th for the British Grand Prix. So changeable conditions should be very, very interesting for the British Grand Prix. And that plays into melting Mercedes. Yes, it is back. As you can see here, They have had some interesting races so far this season in the 2025 campaign. When the track temperature averages out to be less than 40 degrees Celsius or 101 degrees or 104 degrees Fahrenheit, which it looks like they have changed that to a star on my little formatting there. So great job by them. But then also when the track temperature is over 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's been under 40 degrees Celsius in 6 of the races and over 40 degrees Celsius in the other 5 races this season. So on the screen here, I've got the races, I got the average F1 fantasy points per race, the median F1 fantasy points per race, just because that kind of removes some outliers there, and the F1 fantasy points per race gap to Ferrari, because we are really choosing between Ferrari and Mercedes as our second constructor, unless you're down in the tier B constructor game like I was this weekend, but we'll get into that in the team selection portion. Always check it out, timestamps in the description below. So yeah, when the track temperature is under 40 degrees Celsius, Mercedes is scoring 58.2 fantasy points per race. The median F1 fantasy points per race for them is also 58. So bang smack in the middle of that data is a 58 points. So you can see that that's pretty consistent. And their gap to Ferrari is plus 18.2 points per race. When the track temperature goes over 40 degrees, they're scoring 46.4 F1 fantasy points per race, and the median is 19. So there's this outlier in Canada where Mercedes had their double podium 1 and 3 with George Russell and Kimi Antonelli that has really raised that average. As you can tell, I was streaming quite a lot this weekend, so the voice is a little strained. I was actually bragging about this on the race review yesterday, being like, the voice is okay. But then this morning I woke up and I was like, okay, maybe it was like one of those 2-day muscle kind of injury delay things. And when Mercedes are in track temperatures greater than 40 degrees Celsius on average, they have a negative 35.6 points per race gap to Ferrari. So when it's hot, Mercedes really are melting. But when it's cooler, they are battling with Ferrari here, plus 18.2. Now, there are outliers in this data, obviously, like Ferrari double DSQ in China, that helps a lot. George Russell got on the podium there. And like Mercedes have also had quite a few DNFs. Kimi Antonelli has had 3 DNFs in the last 5 races. So that also comes into play with this data. But it is just kind of interesting to see at 40 degrees Celsius, 104 degrees Fahrenheit. If it's below that, Mercedes seem to be thriving. But if it gets above that, there are things that seem to kind of find some gremlins in the Mercedes engine or the drivers or whatever. They just can't control the car as well. So definitely something we need to think about with that cooler track temperature coming in for Silverstone. Maybe Mercedes is the play in Nottinghamshire, Northamptonshire. I can't remember which one it is. I think it's Northampton. So yes, let's go with that. Going over here to the points forecast. We've just been talking about the weather forecast. Now we're talking about the points forecast. And also, if you guys could do me a favor, I did a little bit of a different format on this slide. I want to know, do you think it's easier to see the numbers when there's the red background with the white, or do you prefer it when it's the black background here and the white numbers? Which one stands out more? Which one looks better? Let me know in the comments below. I'm always looking to improve the channel. And if you want to help myself improve the channel, is that the right way to say that? Don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe. Trying to grow the channel. 3,500 by the summer break is the fingers crossed goal, so help me out there. We just got past 3,300. So on the screen here, I've got Fernando Alonso, Gabriel Bortoleto, Nico Hülkenberg, Esteban Ocon, and Ollie Barron. All of these drivers need to score negative points for at least a good price jump at Silverstone. However, what we want to be getting into right now is kind of set and forget drivers, because we're trying to get to this 4A budget with double McLaren, double Mercedes, or triple McLaren, and then Mercedes or something like that with the 4A kind of setup. So what you want is these set and forget drivers. So what I've done here is the average points per race from the last 3 races for each driver, then the British Grand Prix price rise points, which you can find on the budget builder tool on f1fantasytools.com, which if you want to sign up for their premium product, you can use promo code UN50 for 50% off your first month. And then in the final column here, I've got the Belgian Grand Prix price rise points. So what I've done here is I've gone on to Pat F1's Insights, which is also linked in the description below if you want to go play around with that. We talked about this quite a lot on the race review yesterday, so make sure to go check that out as well. And I've taken the average points per race from the last 3 for all these drivers, and I've plugged that into the British Grand Prix, and then that has given me what they will need for a good and a great price rise at the Belgian Grand Prix. Now, this is some classic loosey-goosey maths coming out of the F1 Fantasy Pole Position channel, so bear with me here. But Alonso is averaging 16 points per race over the last 3 races. In Silverstone, he needs negative 18 points for a good price rise, negative 13 points for a great price rise. And if he scores 16 points in Spa for the Belgian Grand Prix, he'll need negative 10 for a good price rise and negative 5 for a great price rise. Gabriel Bortoleto is up here next, 11.3 points per race over the last 3 races. Negative 16 and negative 11 for the price rises in Silverstone. If he gets to that 11.3 average points per race in Silverstone, he'll need negative 20 for a good price rise in Spa and negative 15 for a great price rise. Hülkenberg is next, 22.3 points per race. We keep saying that Sauber and Hülkenberg can't keep doing this, and yet they keep doing it. So I'm not entirely sure if I can keep doubting the man. Negative 13 points for a good price rise at Silverstone, negative 8 for a great. And then in Spa, it's going to go at negative 19 and negative 11. So all of those options, Alonso, Bortoleto, Hülkenberg, I've seen a lot of teams that already have these 3 assets. So great job by y'all. I'm pretty jealous, to be honest. I have Alonso and Hülkenberg. I'm looking to bring in Bortoleto this week. And then the next 2 here are Ocon and Behrman. Those were kind of outside shots. I did highlight Esteban Ocon in my transfer targets episode last week on the channel, kind of saying that Haas, they like to qualify low. Austria is a pretty high overtake track. That seems to be where Haas are thriving this season in F1 Fantasy. So Ocon came through, got the great price rise. He's averaged 11 points per race over the last 3. He needs negative 7 for a good price rise and 0 points for a great price rise in Silverstone. And if he gets to that 11 points at Silverstone, he'll need negative 6 for a good price rise in Spa and then 2 points for a great price rise in Belgium. Am I sure that all of these drivers are going to hit their average points per race? I don't know, but it's still very encouraging to see that there are a lot of kind of set and forget potential assets in F1 Fantasy. Ollie Behrman is the last one here, 7 points per race over the last 3. He needs negative 2 points for a good price rise, 4 points for a great price rise at the British Grand Prix. If he hits those 7 points, he'll need 0 points for a good price rise and 6 points for a great price rise at Spa, which is a sprint weekend, so points will be easier to come by, as will DNFs more than likely, because there's going to be 3 sessions to kind of pick up a DNF, or 2 race sessions and a qualifying. So as of right now, I think Alonso, Bortoleto, Hülkenberg are going to be the 3 main assets. However, if you already have them and you're looking for another sneaky 0.6 gain coming in, Ocon's looking good, Behrman's looking good. These are kind of the class of the tier B drivers right now. So all 5 of these assets will be very popular heading into Silverstone. Some of them are already super popular, like Alonso and Hülkenberg. Bortoleto shooting up there this weekend as well with his huge performance. So let me know what you think in the comments below. If you already have 3 of these drivers, are you going to bring in a 4th driver? What are your plans for the British Grand Prix? But now that I have gone through the main part of my episode, let's get into some team selection.
When you wanna grow your list size, pop up like it's hot, pop up like it's hot, pop up like it's hot. And when you gotta boost your revenue, pop up like it's hot, hey, pop up like it's hot, pop up like it's hot. Pick your favorite template, you can tailor to your brand. They're MailChimp-erific, you're gonna be a fan. MailChimp your marketing with our new customizable pop-ups.
Verst is guys wear that guys wear. The modern man's clothing brand that makes you feel good to be a guy. Whether you're dropping controversial hot takes in the group chat or trying not to pull a hammy in a pickup game, Verst keeps you cool and comfortable in any situation. That's VRST, Verst. Shop guys wear now only at Dick's.
Everyone who works at Starbucks, full or part-time, gets stock in our company, simply for being part of our company. That's why we call our employees partners, because when Starbucks succeeds, our people do too. And that success turns into down payments, family vacations, and so much more. At Starbucks, benefits like company stock are just the start. Learn more about how we support partners at starbucks.com/partners.
Alrighty, so here's the T1 squad for F1 Fantasy. As you guys probably saw, if you followed me on my deadline stream, that was like a marathon stream, 3.5 hours long or something like that, you will know that I went a little bit different here. I've got George Russell, Fernando Alonso, Nico Hülkenberg, Oscar Piastri, Isaac Hadjar, McLaren, and Aston Martin in my squad. I used all 3 of my transfers. I'm going to feel that a little bit this week. I'm looking ahead. It feels like a -10 is in my future. It's part of the game. I don't have my wild card left, so it is kind of what it is. So Piastri, Alonso, Hülkenberg, McLaren are all sticking around. But the 3 assets that are kind of on the chopping block for me are Russell, Aston Martin, and Isaac Hadjar. The one transfer I'm pretty much guaranteed to do this week is going to be Isaac Hadjar to Gabriel Bortoleto. I'm going to take my licks, or I'm going to take the earnings that I've got with Isaac Hadjar over the last few weeks. He's been a phenomenal asset, just fell short of the 0.6 rise. Would have been another sweet budget gain. I think I went up 2.9 million in budget and like a 200 place green arrow in F1 Fantasy. I was pretty much a gray arrow this week, but I did get some more budget. So I'm at 117.4 million. So starting to feel a little bit better. Still concentrating on the budget rising aspect here. But yeah, I can kind of get right back into this template mode with a -10, which is not bad. Depending on how Ferrari looks with their new upgrades, 3-4 in Austria is good, but it was quite hot. Red Bull's off the table for sure. They're looking quite miserable. So Mercedes, the problem is when I go with Mercedes, it leaves me in this like kind of weird price point where I have 15 million left, and it's opens up some scenarios where like I can't keep George Russell, obviously, but like going down to any of these assets here, like Esteban Ocon's at 8.3, that leaves me with 6.7 million, which is enough to get in Lando Norris, but then that's me looking at a -20 to get to this squad. Is a -20, like I've got 4 assets right here, probably the 4 assets that are going to rise the most likely. If we go over to the budget builder here, 0.6 million. As you can see, Alonso, Bortoleto, Hülkenberg, Ocon. Behrman, I just showed you this on the other chart, so thank you to F1 Fantasy Tools for letting me kind of repurpose that and then adding Pat's F1 Fantasy Calculator here. But all the other B tier guys, Colapinto, Gasly, Alpine looks miserable, Stroll. I've never been more nervous having a constructor in my squad that has a certain driver in it than having Aston Martin this weekend. Despite them being on for another 0.6 price rise, I'm trying to get out of the Aston Martin game as fast as possible. But if I did want to stick around, say Aston Martin look good again and I get tricked again, this is leaving me with 25.1 million, which is 0.4 million short of Oscar Piastri, which is a little frustrating. But Charles Leclerc could be there. That's a negative. That's just 2 free transfers. That's 3 free transfers. Sorry, because I take Oscar Piastri back. But yeah, it's kind of like Max is on there as well. He'll be kind of like bull in China shop, but he's probably going to fall. And I'm still kind of prioritizing budget building as well. So I'm in this like strange price point where I could go back up to Ferrari, and that leaves me with a little bit more like appropriate funds, less money in the bank to get into Esteban Ocon. Still a -10, but that's okay. But I'm pretty sure I'll be looking at a -10 this week unless Aston Martin really do look like they're flying out the gates. Ferraris may be struggling. I could keep George Russell. Is there a world where I'm like rolling a transfer? I don't really see it, but like if Mercedes look great and Russell looks good and Aston Martin somehow look good, I'm still in this kind of area as well. So I guess there's a lot of options for me in F1 Fantasy this week. I could be rolling a transfer or taking a -10. I don't really see myself just sticking to 2 transfers. So it'll either be rolling or a -10. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I know we're playing for points. but there is a certain aspect of me that's like, yeah, I don't know. So I guess the thing is Russell plus Aston Martin could be a 0.9 gain, but that would be the same gain as getting Ferrari or Mercedes plus Esteban Ocon, and I feel like that probably scores more points. So this is a kind of area that I'm thinking about. I could always do the whole like setup for final fix thing that I don't have to take a negative 20. Oscar Piastri looking pretty good to rise a little bit more, at least 0.1. I mean, the 31 points is a little bit difficult here now that we're getting into, he's like 25.5 million. So it's getting a little bit tougher for Oscar to keep rising. Russell will rise as well, outside of not kind of completing the race. I expect him to finish top 5, top 6 quite easily. But yeah, this is probably the most sensible option I can go with, a negative 10. Yeah, Bortoleto was probably the play. Kick Sauber was probably the play as well. Like maybe if I had Kick Sauber, if I'd just gone with Kick Sauber originally, I would have had a fair bit of money to go. Like I probably would have had Hadjar, but yeah, it is what it is. So this is where I can see myself ending up at the deadline on Saturday before qualifying, where I've got Bortoleto in here, and I'll have who was the last driver there? Esteban Ocon. Liam Lawson had a bang-up performance, 13 points, but now that he's a 4.5 million asset, it's not a bad option there either, especially if Racing Bulls continue to look good. Maybe this will spur on Liam Lawson, but it's kind of one of those things that we'll have to wait for practice. So if I'm saying it right now, I think this is going to be my squad heading into Saturday's deadline. This is probably my favorite squad. It is a negative 10, but still way on for budget rising, way on for points. Maybe I should have done that in Austria anyway, but it was fun to be a little bit different and see how it all went down. But let me know your lineup conundrums and what you're thinking about in the comments below. But that'll do it for today's episode of F1 Fantasy Pole Position, the team selection episode for the British Grand Prix. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are over 3,300 subscribers, but pushing for 3,500 by the summer break. So help me out in that regard if you're watching and you have not done either of those things. There'll be a Q&A stream on Wednesday as per usual for every race week. I'm pretty sure I've done that every single week this season. And then there'll be a Friday night, Saturday morning episode out before the deadline for the British Grand Prix. But once again, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you next time.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.